For all of you Narcos fans, sit back, grab a drink, and listen carefully. What if we were to tell you a little something about a drug lord who's been in the game for over 5 decades, on par with Pablo Escobar, Felix Gallardo, and the Miguel brothers? This guy's one of the originals, a vintage classic if you will. Tiny difference though, the man in question, he's still alive, and he still hasn't been caught. Before we get in, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, you know the drill. Help us grow into the channel you know we can be. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Ismael Zimbardo Garcia, aka El Mayo. El Mayo was born on January 1st, 1948, in the small Sinaloan hamlet of El Alamo. Growing up, his family lived in relative poverty. He helped pay the bills in any way he could, doing odd jobs as a truck driver, and even washing cars for the local government. Farming, though, was his main occupancy. His pastoral roots and connections would give him access to Sinaloa's many illicit poppy and marijuana fields. At 17, he was already married and had his first child not long after. He would soon enter the marijuana trade, entering into partnerships and amassing contacts to build his business. This wasn't his first criminal venture. In his youth, he allegedly worked as a sicario for the Juarez cartel. By the late 1970s, El Mayo was already smuggling large-scale marijuana shipments to the US, though his most profitable export was heroin. Tijuana and LA were his first major centers of operations. In the early 1980s, the Sinaloan cowboy, well known for his white sombrero, was deep enough in the Mexican drug world to earn a high-ranking spot in the Guadalajara cartel, led by Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo. The cartel brought more cocaine and marijuana into the US than any association before. El Mayo proved a vital member thanks to his contacts in the US and in Central America. After the busts of the cartel's high-ranking drug pins in the late 80s, the association splintered into the Tijuana cartel, led by Felix's heirs and nephews, and the Sinaloa cartel, with El Chapo and El Mayo at the helm. Despite this, El Mayo would go on to forge alliances across Mexico. In 1993, El Chapo was arrested in Guatemala and sent to a maximum security prison, after which point El Mayo took over the cartel's operations. The Sinaloa cartel was, and remains, fairly decentralized, granting a cohort of high-ranking drug lords relative autonomy in their respective centers of operations. This gave El Mayo the freedom to embark on other business ventures. He worked closely with the Juarez cartel, a valuable asset since his sicario days, then under the leadership of Amado Carrillo Fuentes. Upon Carrillo's death in 1997, El Mayo even assumed the cartel's leadership, cementing his networks even deeper. He gained valuable contacts in the Colombian cocaine trade, smuggling drugs from Central and South America into the US. El Mayo not only kept up the business, but could finance top-of-the-range security for himself, his organization, and his family. Ever since the split of the Guadalajara cartel, the Tijuana and Sinaloa cartels faced off in a bloody turf war. In 1994, El Mayo was almost killed by a car bomb on the orders of the Arellano brothers. In 1999, his second wife, Leticia, lost her parents and several family members in a violent raid on the hotel they were staying in. The bitter feud would go on for several decades with seemingly endless hit squad raids, shootouts, and assassinations, costing thousands of innocent lives. The war was at its peak in the mid-2000s. In 2006, the administration of President Felipe Calderon clamped down on Mexican narcos. The Tijuana cartel, at the time the largest and most sophisticated network in the country, suffered most from the government crackdown. Taking advantage of their vulnerability, El Mayo and El Chapo began to encroach on strongholds in northwestern Mexico. All-out war was the result. Despite the violence, the 2000s were a profitable decade for the Sinaloa cartel. In 2001, El Chapo had managed to escape from Puente Grande prison in a laundry cart, before being whisked off to safety in a private helicopter arranged by El Mayo. 1 year later, the Arellano brothers were either dead or locked up, and the Sinaloa cartel had also ramped up exports. They were turning into one of the world's most elaborate crime syndicates, receiving multi-ton quantities of cocaine, mainly owing to El Mayo's Colombian connections. Both cocaine and heroin were smuggled into major US cities through tunnel, trains, boats, planes, submarines, and helicopters. There were no creative boundary limits. Vicente Zambada, El Mayo's son and right-hand man, was able to arrange for transportation, storage, and security for up to 1,600 kilos of cocaine that had arrived in Cancun, earning the cartel millions in one shipment. By the age of 21, Vicente had also practically bought Mexico City Airport, bribing 2 federal officials with $20 million so that his father could land private planes packed with cocaine right into Mexico's capital city. Then President Felipe Calderon and the Secretary of Public Safety were also in the cartel's pocket, providing protection to El Mayo and his subordinates. The administration's double-crossing, however, under US pressure, would lead to significant arrests in the late 2000s, including El Mayo's sons. When El Chapo was captured in 2014, the DEA made El Mayo the #1 most powerful drug pin in the north of Mexico. Currently, the FBI is offering up to $5 million for information leading to his capture. He has been wanted for extradition since 1998. The war on drugs has forced El Mayo into hiding ever since the 1990s. He has operated the cartel on a low profile, pulling its strings from the shadows, though today has delegated day-to-day responsibilities to the organization's various middle-ranking barons. He hasn't been seen in decades. Evidence suggests he's used plastic surgery to change his appearance. He's also in hideout in the mountains of the famous Golden Triangle. In a 2010 exclusive interview with a leading Mexican journalist, he said, "The mountain is my home, my family, my protection, my land, and the water that I drink. Land is always good, but not the sky." Claiming to have been inches from capture at least 4 times, he lives in fear of being caught. He doesn't sleep more than 2 nights in one place and never leaves the mountains. But his business acumen, as well as his low-lying profile, has also enabled El Mayo to elude the authorities. In the past, he has owned a milk company, a bus line, and a hotel, as well as investing in real estate. Rather than resorting to violence throughout his time in the game, he has spent vast sums on protection, from the employ of Chino Antrax to buying off authorities wherever he moves. El Mayo has stayed alive thanks to a cool head and a clever mind. His politeness and general shyness have no doubt helped him along the way. So there you go, one of the oldest drug lords in the business, still tied to the cartel, and still evading capture. A farmer, a businessman, a criminal, and a fugitive. Do you think El Mayo is worth the hype? We hope you liked the video. If you like our channel, please go ahead and click on one of these videos for more cool content. Thanks for stopping by.